Bam, 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 bam.
And it looks like we're recording. Hi, everybody.
Okay.
This is Lainey Liberty of RaisingMiro.com and of ProjectWorldSchool.com, and this is episode number 3 of our new series called World School Talk. And I'm so excited to be speaking to fellow World Schooling mom, Jennifer Pierce, who is one of the authors behind PierceOnEarth.com. So, hello, Jennifer, and welcome.
Thank you, Lainey.
So, Jennifer, if you don't mind, take a few minutes and introduce yourself and introduce your family.
Right. Well, we are the Pierce family, and we are Jennifer, myself, and Brandon, my husband, our 3 daughters. We have an 11-year-old, Emily, and our 9-year-old, Marie. And Asia is our 3.5-year-old, and we actually had her while we were on the road. So we're originally from Utah, so we've been traveling about 5 years now.
Wow! And I bet you have lots of stories to tell. Could you explain to our audience what your world schooling style is?
Right, yes, we actually have a very eclectic style. We just use the resources that are available wherever we are at the time, according to our interests. It's kind of a whole family affair. We're all learning. It's not just the kids. So we definitely go off of their interests and desires and our own, and just try and make that work and balance that as we go along. So it's it looked very different throughout our journey, always changing.
I love the flexibility, too, of this lifestyle. You're on the road and everything externally is new, but we don't always give credit to the fact that we're internally changing, too, and our needs are changing, and our inspirations are changing, and our interests are changing. So that's really a great point that you make, that, you know, everything always changes.
Right. And really, you know, since we travel so often, it doesn't really work with our lifestyle to put them in school. But we have from time to time, you know, done, like in Bali, we did like a little, we tested a school out, the Palangi school, for about a month, just for fun, just to give them that opportunity. And right now we're doing a homeschool group, and just a small little homeschool group in Ubud, Bali, and it's working out really well. But things are always, opportunities and people are always coming and going, you know, in places like Ubud, where it's very transient. And so sometimes we come and there's not much available, and other times, like the past couple months, there's been a lot available. So because of our lifestyle is more mobile, we have to be more flexible with the opportunities and all of that. But our girls also really, really love being there, but they also really crave differences in, like, the Western cultures. They really kind of want that right now. So we're going to be going to BC, Canada in, I think, July, and for a few months, just to give them that opportunity to try that. My husband and I aren't interested really in that kind of lifestyle, but they are, and so it's kind of like blending the different desires and trying to make everything work together. So we sometimes are pleasantly surprised at the results, or what we learned that we wouldn't have otherwise done, just based on our own interests.
Yeah. I really love what you said, Jennifer, because I often talk about and write about the partnership paradigm. And a lot of people think that you could only have a partnership paradigm with two people because the implication is partners are two. And what you're talking about now really is extending a partnership paradigm to 5 people. And you're talking about looking at everybody's needs and making sure everybody's needs are met. And so I think that's really important to point out and congratulate you on. So bravo on that.
It's tricky with 5 people. It can be, but
I can imagine. In terms of the types of opportunities that you've created for your girls and for you and your husband as you continue life learning, do you think that you would be open to saying yes to these types of opportunities if you were still living a conventional lifestyle in Utah?
well, it would have been more difficult. We were planning to homeschool before we started traveling, and it would have been more difficult, I think, for us. That's where I think our horizons and our perspectives and everything have changed because we've been traveling, because we've been out of our familiar environment and have been exposed to other people, other cultures, other traditions, other mindsets. We were very much in a bubble, I think, before our family in particular. Just we had so many things that we just didn't see about the world and about our place in it. And I think traveling really exposes you to that bigger picture. And so I don't know, like we have taken opportunities because we've been made aware of them, opportunities we wouldn't have been made aware of had we not started traveling and expanding that just knowledge of what's out there in the world. So yeah.
That's incredible. This is not, a general travel video interview. I mean, we're really talking about the educational and the learning portions. And I was wondering if you could share some examples of what a lot of people call natural learning in the world, just through virtue travel.
Okay. Well, like our family, we started out in Costa Rica, for example, and we decided that we would just try it out. So we left, and we knew that we would be very exposed to many different things, and we were just really excited. We were kind of tired of same old familiarity because we felt like we weren't learning and growing as much as we could. And so moving to Costa Rica, first of all, we decided to learn Spanish with the girls. I knew Spanish already. My husband and girls didn't know it. So first we started, with a tutor coming to the house for them. And then we just met this really amazing Costa Rican family that we all clicked with really, really well. And of course, we hung out a lot with them, and that's how we really learned Spanish, is through that opportunity. And and we just, something as simple as that. But yeah, it's not easy, all the time to blend in or to fit in or to find a place in the culture, the community outside of maybe the expat community. So that was a really great opportunity for us to connect so deeply with this family and really get a different experience. And we have appreciated the expat communities. And as far as learning in Costa Rica, we had one of our biggest shifts in learning, which was our belief system was completely, blown out of the water. We realized that the belief system we grew up in as far as our religion, for example, was completely not really what we wanted to continue with. It didn't make sense to us anymore. Because when you're out in the world, like you're exposed to so much that you're just like, wow, I didn't even realize that people could feel the exact same way about contradictory things.
Yeah.
Like they're feeling these strong feelings just the same as I was about my own belief system. And maybe these feelings are not pointing to the fact that it's necessarily the one true way, but it's just one of many. And is that really the way that I would resonate most strongly with, or do I want to expand my horizons in that area and really look at all the possibilities and opportunities? So that's the biggest shift.
That's so beautiful. Jennifer, you and I have never really spoken. We've had a couple of emails back and forth, but you don't know this. I followed your blog, and in 2000, I think it was 2010, I read your husband's long post about that change, and I was just blown away. I mean, we never really talked about it, but I know exactly what you're talking about. So I wanted you to know that I've been following and reading you guys for a long time. So.
Thank you. Yeah, it was mind-blowing, really, for us, because our whole reality shifted at that point. What we thought we had all the answers for and what we thought we were completely identified with, we realized that wasn't us at all, and it was just like, what is reality now? What's going on? What are the answers? And kind of from there, we've kind of come to this place of it's okay not to have all the answers. It's okay to just live in this amazing mystery of life that we're all a part of and try and connect at a level that's meaningful in that context. And it's not about who's right or who has the answers, but it's sharing together what has helped us and what we've learned in our journeys and what we're continuing to learn. So everybody's voice is important.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I hope, with your permission, I can post, make a link to that post, because it was a powerful post, and I remember your husband's writing about that particular subject for years. So what I think is really interesting is it's been now, since you've had, your family has gone through this epiphany and this change, you've become more open and you've traveled quite a bit. Can you talk a little bit about the lessons that you've learned from the humanity that you've interacted with, and also your children and perhaps some of their experiences?
Okay, sure. Yes, as we've traveled, we have really discovered so many differences. And some of them we don't appreciate as much as, and others we really appreciate. And it's really, for me, it's such a big lesson that I've learned, that I actually began learning in Costa Rica, and mostly in regards to my personal relationships. But as we've been traveling, I've just really noticed that it extends to all areas, really, of my life, of this idea of expectations versus appreciation. It's really made such a difference in my life to focus on the appreciation and what there is to enjoy and to be joyful about in life. And I feel like expectations kind of get in the way sometimes when they're unhealthy, because we can just pay attention to everything that maybe we feel like complaining about, or that we don't feel is good enough, or that we want that we don't have. And coming at it from that approach is really so disempowering, whereas being able to look at all the good that is already available is so empowering. It just really puts in shadow everything else that isn't good enough, maybe that you feel like isn't good enough, and you just feel like, wow, because I was only focused on that, I didn't see all this amazing abundance that was all around me. And so that's one of the things. I think when you go to different cultures and different places, it could be something as simple as, the shower, getting the whole bathroom wet, and and that really bothering you, or having beans in the pillows instead of, fluffy, feathers or whatever you're used to. And you could really just let those things get in the way of your experience. Or, we've encountered, corrupt, policemen that want to pull you over for bribes, or, that stuff can really bother you if you let it. But if you look instead at all the abundance and the opportunities that traveling provides, and just these mind-expanding perspectives that you could be having, and just the time with your family and appreciating that growth that comes, and really just using it as an opportunity to practice being mindful and appreciative, it's just such a different experience. And these amazing people that you find along the journey, complete strangers that are so helpful and so warm and loving, and they're, I guess where we came from, people can be like that as well. But some of these cultures, it can just strike you so differently. These people just are very, gracious and generous, and yeah, they might think a lot differently than we do, and sometimes those things can be difficult to maneuver as well. But just the intentions behind people's actions are, we found, usually very positive and very much wanting to connect at those kinds of deeper levels, and just allowing for that, just looking past what you perceive as too different or whatever really isn't, when you focus on what you have in common. So, or what you
described our experience exactly too. I want to ask you a little bit about something that I talk about often, which is a little outside of the world schooling experience, but you touched on it without really going there. We come from the United States, and we come from a culture of fear. Can you talk a little bit about how perhaps you moved away from having that be the cornerstone of your belief system? Because travel, it's a game changer. It equalizes, in my opinion, your experience in the world. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, so with fear, it's true. I guess for us, people think it's so difficult to get over these fears, and in a way it is. I know it is. I've seen that it is for us at different times in our lives, and for other people that we know. But really, when you can cultivate and nurture that excitement and look at the other side, the fear just kind of doesn't seem as important. You might feel the butterflies in your stomach, but you can look at it more as an excitement. If you look at it that way, then you're really just like, wow, I'm so excited for what's on the other side of this, because you stop trusting your fear, I guess, is what it is, when you feel the excitement for what you feel like you could gain from overcoming your fear, what's on the other side. And that was, for us, a big part of it. We would tell people, yeah, this is what we're doing. We're going to go traveling, and we're so excited. And they would be like, oh, that doesn't sound exciting to me. That sounds really scary. And they would come up with all these things, and we're just like, yeah, I guess that could happen, or that bad thing could happen, or this bad thing. But you know what? Bad things happen in life, no matter what you're doing. You can let that make you afraid to do anything at all, or you can just do what you want, that you're excited about. And so that's what we did, and we are so glad we did. Yeah, you do have problems and setbacks and things that happen, but overall it's been a much more positive experience than negative, and we would not choose to do anything differently as far as, saying, oh yeah, well, maybe we shouldn't have gone there, maybe we shouldn't have started traveling, maybe we should have stayed back in our old life. That's not it at all. In fact, when we think about that possibility, we're horrified. We're like, oh, we would never want to not have had these experiences. so important to who we are and what we've learned. And yeah, the fear, I've been thinking a lot and learning a lot over the past few months also about vulnerability, and that's also something that, you know, is people have a hard time getting to this healthy, connected place of vulnerability out of fear. But that's really where all the magic happens. It's in that space of vulnerability that you can really connect with people and with yourself and with your life and the world in a way that's really worth it and meaningful, you know?
I agree with you 100%. I think I have always said the magic happens when you step outside of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Can you address some of, or actually share some of the experiences from your girls' perspective, maybe from your perspective about the girls, and some of the opportunities that they've had through this, through travel, through world schooling, that I think is unique to this lifestyle?
Yeah, so definitely seeing these different cultures. It's so different when you're actually experiencing it in person versus learning about it even on a video or through a book. Or I mean, we do have the internet, which has been very helpful, but it's interesting. As much as we try to get a feel for a country before we go there, we just don't get it until we're there. People can tell us whatever they want about a place and even try and show us, but until you get there and feel the energy of a place, you don't really totally understand it. And so,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's interesting you say the energy of a place. It's something I talk about all the time to other travelers, and they get it. And then when I talk about, well, you know, we like this country not for reasons, but the energy felt really calming or inviting, or it didn't feel good. You know, I mean, there's no tangible description other than, you know, based on your perception of that energy. And I'm so glad you said that. It shows that I'm not crazy.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Like, for example, we really liked on paper the whole idea of moving to Malaysia in Penang after we moved away from Costa Rica. So we moved there and we liked it for a couple months, but we were expecting we'd like it for a longer term base, but the energy just didn't feel right, even though everything intellectually made sense. So we continued traveling. Eventually we made it to Bali, Indonesia, and that place felt good. It felt like it would work as our long-term base, but we had already purchased tickets to go to Japan, and so we went to Japan the first time the girls had been to Japan, and it's all of our favorite. Like, we all love that country so much. We wouldn't necessarily want to live there, but the energy of that place really resonates with us. But then Bali is more of a base to live for us. But it's really interesting, like, in Barcelona, we just barely were there a few months ago, and that energy of that place was so amazing. We all just felt so good there, and I don't know what it is, but a whole bunch of people we've talked to have also felt the same way about Barcelona. Like, it just has this magical, like, as soon as we arrived, we all just felt so connected and so balanced and so happy, and just whatever it was, we still don't know, but just helping the girls, like, experience those differences in the places, and not just going so much on intellect, and really just thinking about their connections to people and to places. It's been such a good thing for all of us that way. The unique types of world schooling experiences, I would say, for them are being able to be in these cultures, learning these languages, and learning gosh, you know, like in Ubud, there are so many different people from so many different places in the world that kind of collect there, and so they've been able to not only learn about the countries and the cultures that we have traveled to, but also been able to really get to know a whole bunch of people from places we haven't even been, and get to know their experiences and learn from them. Like Marie, for example, has her best friend is from Sweden, and she lives in Bali. And just learning about their experiences with education, for example, Sweden is, they don't allow homeschooling. And so just having the experience of talking to this girl and her mother, how much they value the opportunity to do education in their own way, and how they've had to leave their own country because they can't do that. And yeah, it's so interesting to see the different places that people come from and how that influences them.
Yeah, I agree. And I love what you said about, well, about everything, actually. But I love what you said about identifying with the energy of the place and how you're feeling, because in conventional life, when we're, we've got schedules, we've got classrooms, we've got, obligations, we've got this, we've got that, we tend to devalue how we feel and how we react to a situation or a task because that's less important. What's more important is getting the job done, the task, the schedule, the all of those things, the goals, the obligation. And so your girls are learning that not only does the intellectual information that goes in is very important, but the way that they process and feel and about what they're experiencing is equally important. And that's not a lesson we learn in conventional life, in my opinion.
Right. It is not. And it's so important that this, like, I guess it's part of emotional intelligence, like really understanding your emotions and being able to to feel them, to allow yourself to feel them, and not just be so much in tune with what's expected, what do I need to do, what should I be doing according to other people's agendas for me, but just really tuning into yourself and saying what's important to me, how am I really feeling, and being okay with the whole spectrum of feelings, but not really attaching to anything so strongly that you can't just let things flow naturally, So you don't want this fight or flight response. You just want this free-flowing, like, oh, I'm feeling happy right now, great, and not attaching to that, but just feeling it and not worrying, oh, when is this feeling going to go away, or I'm feeling sad.
In the present. I mean, it always is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you and I could talk for hours and hours and hours. We are so on the same level. I'm so glad we finally got a chance to connect. But I'm concerned about keeping this so it doesn't last all night. And I have two more questions for you. The first one is, and I don't like to give advice, but what I like to do, because then that positions me as some sort of expert on something, and I'm not an expert on anything. I just am familiar and aware of my own life. If there's something that you have learned through this world schooling process and you could share with an open heart, that's what I'd like for you to do. So that's the first question.
Oh, I didn't catch the last part that you said.
I basically just asked you if there's something that you've discovered through your world schooling experience that you can share with this audience with an open heart. If you're comfortable, please do share. And then I said that was the first question. I have one more after that.
Okay, got it. Okay. So, yeah, so the world schooling is something I could share. There's so much. I think probably it would be just really just kind of being able to trust your own learning process, really, because that's something that I grew up with not really doing. Like, I had so many interests that I wanted to follow, and And I didn't really feel like I had the time or that I could trust myself to really do that. I felt like I had to do what everybody else was telling me I should learn and how I should learn it. But with world schooling, you just have what interests you, what do you want to learn, who do you want to learn it from. You're not tied into any curriculum or any you need to do this by this date. You really just have the whole world open to you, and just to learn to take advantage of that, and not to put undue pressure on yourself, but just to make sure that whatever you're learning and whatever you're spending your time and energy on, you're really inspired and passionate about, because that, I think, is what's going to make the difference in your life. And if you're not interested in a certain subject just because you feel like, oh, it's something you should learn, don't spend your time on it right now. Spend your time on something that you're really loving and you're really passionate about. And eventually, maybe your passion for that will lead into this other subject that you weren't so interested in, but now you have this this motivation to learn it because it's part of what you're passionate about. But yeah, so I think that's the main thing. And really, I don't want to spend my time on anything that isn't really heartfelt and coming from my heart. And I think that my girls are picking up on that as well. Like, there's so many things you can do that aren't really worth your time and energy and effort, that aren't relevant enough at this point in your life to be excited enough about to really make that much of a difference doing. But there's always something that is, and that's, I think, what we should be focusing and spending our time on.
I think leading by example, you're doing a great job for your girls. And I don't know if you identify with this, but you sure sound like an unschooler to me. We're unschoolers that are world schoolers, but you sound like an unschooler.
It's hard. Those labels are hard for me. But yeah, I guess I do use the word homeschool a lot, but I don't identify so much with that as I do with the world schooling label, for example, unschooling in an unschooling approach, yes.
Yeah, labels are, they throw people off. And then they get into definitions, and then they say, well, you're not doing this because that's the definition. And the first episode of World Schooling Talk, I wanted to make sure that this is all inclusive. All styles of learning are accepted and welcome, and we are world schoolers, and we support one another. My last question for you is, what's next for the Pierce family?
Well, let's see. So we are actually in Singapore right now and on a visa run from Bali. So we're going back to Bali on Wednesday. And we just finished our home renovation in Bali. We're actually just working on the finishing touches. And so we're going to be there until May, the beginning of May. And then we're taking off to, we're still working out the details. That's one of the things that we have a hard time with, is knowing what we want to do too far in advance, because we are so go with the flow. But we're thinking of going to southern Spain in May, and then possibly Valencia for a little while. We're going to start in Granada, most likely, and then head up to Valencia. And then we might just visit a bit of southern France, maybe the Toulouse area and Nice, before we go to... Yeah, so we've never been to France before. We have been to Spain, as I said, but we have never been to southern Spain. And just because we really love the energy of what we've experienced in Spain so far. And then after France, we're thinking of British Columbia, Canada, Victoria, actually. And we were thinking maybe 3 to 6 months there for the girls' sake, because they really kind of miss that culture of that Western North American neighborhood type culture feel. And we might actually go to we're thinking of going to the Life Without Instructions conference I knew in the Coast. We might come. We're really hoping we can.
That would be amazing. Then I get to give you a big hug in person because we're presenting there.
Yeah, it would be so great. We would love to come. And then we'll probably spend a little bit of time in Utah. We have some things in storage we'd like to get all sorted out. And then Whistler, Canada for Christmas with some of Brandon's family. So.
Wow, you've got this whole thing loosely mapped out. What an adventure. And go ahead and give out your website, and I'll put them in the show notes as well.
Okay, great. So, yeah, it's Pierce on Earth. So our last name, Pearce, on Earth.
Awesome. And I'll get you to send me a link to that early blog post that just stuck with me that I remember from years ago.
I will. Great.
Thank you so much for being my first guest and pulling me out of my nervous interviewer mode. And I'm so happy to have connected with you. And you're such a pleasure and a joy to talk to.
Oh, you too. It'd be great to meet in person. Yeah.
I agree. Fantastic. Well, take care, and this will go up live in a couple days or sooner.
Okay. Thank you, Lainey.
Take care. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.